God created us to fellowship, and the same is true for homeschooling.
So in the book, you talk about simplifying, and you have an acronym that you use in there to simplify. So let's go through that acronym. Take us through it and what you mean by simplify.
Yeah. So I told you earlier on Monday that I'm a very type A, got to have lists, right? And I also am a writing teacher. And so I love alliteration and I love mnemonics and things like that.
Yep.
So my brain, I couldn't truly simplify and do the things I wanted to do. And so I came up with like an acronym for me to help me remind me when I was planning. And so the Simplify acronym, the S stands for start with the end in mind. The I stands for invite others along on the journey. M is Mark Twain's motto, which is don't let school get in the way of your education. The next one, P, is put home back into homeschooling. And L is my favorite. Less is more. And that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way as I was homeschooling. I stands for ignite their passions. And F stands for being flexible and fun. I have a hard time with flexibility, but I am pretty good at the fun part. And then Y was the hardest one for me. And that one stands for your ultimate job description.
Love it. All right, let's break it apart. So let's start with S.
Okay. So start with the end in mind. Yogi Berra once said, the great baseball coach, that if you don't know where you're going, you'll definitely end up someplace else. And so when you start homeschooling, really the first thing you need to do is to have the end in mind.
Yeah.
So where is it that you want your kids to be? What kind of people do you want them to be? What is it that you feel like is the whole reason you're homeschooling, right? So why are you doing this in the first place? And so, the Lord tells us that our quiver is full. And so I like to think of the kids as arrows, and our time at home is us stretching and stretching and stretching. But we need to have a target, right? So on that launch day, when they graduate and, they go off into the world, we want them to hit the mark.
Yeah.
But we need to know what that mark is. And so one of the first things to do is to really just start with the end in mind. Whether you're just starting high school, where is it that your kids want to be in 4 years when they graduate, or even when they're in kindergarten? Where is it that you want them to be and to know and to learn by the time they leave? And then when you have that idea, then your planning just falls into place.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to do a certain math curriculum or a certain writing curriculum or a certain class if it doesn't really fit in with your ultimate goals for this homeschooling journey. Yeah. So that's what the S stands for.
I love that as a reminder, because I just recently was messaging with a friend, and she was talking about decision making and how she has a really hard time making decisions. And it's funny because as you're talking about that, I'm thinking that's why we need to know where we're going, because it is really hard to make decisions if we have no idea where our goal is. And, we've talked about this lots of times, but it's, like using your GPS. I mean, you've got to put your end destination in your GPS to know where you're going, instead of just randomly driving on all sorts of different roads, hoping that you're going to end up somewhere amazing. You're going to end up nowhere. You have to have that destination in order to plan where you're going. So I love it. Okay. So that's S. Let's go to the I.
And I also, real quick, but I also really think knowing your end plan comes in handy on those really bad days or those challenging seasons, because it helps you pare down all of the fluff to get back to what is your purpose, what is your main plan. So anyway.
Yeah. It's knowing your why as well. You got to know your destination, but you have to know your why. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, know your why. Yeah.
What are you running to? What are you running from? Where are you going? Yep. We've got to know our why.
So I stands for invite others along on the journey. You cannot do this homeschooling thing alone.
Amen.
We're not lone rangers. God didn't create us. Mary had her Martha, and David had his Jonathan, and Peter had his brother Andrew. God created us to fellowship, and the same is true for homeschooling. You can homeschool in a closet, but you're definitely going to burn out. You're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And there are just so many moms out there, mentor moms and moms like yourself who are still in the trenches, and then moms that just have gifts and passions that I just loved going to park day. I always made that a priority
Yeah.
because it could have been one of the worst days, one of the worst mornings. But we would go to park day, and sure enough, all I had to do was say, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what happened this morning." And moms would just be like, "Oh, so it's my kid used to do that too. And this is what we did. Try this," or "Don't worry about it." Or they would just pray.
Yeah.
They would just put hands on you and pray. And
Yeah.
so, you don't have to be in a co-op. That's nice if you're learning together with friends, but it's the whole idea of just inviting others
Yeah.
along for the journey. And along that note, inviting your husband
Yeah.
along on the journey, not doing it all by yourself without him. Inviting grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the secret ingredient to
Yeah.
homeschooling, that if you're blessed to have grandparents, you get them involved, and
Yeah.
especially if they're not on board.
Ah.
Because I found that that was actually what changed my mother-in-law. She wasn't so thrilled about this homeschooling thing, but when she would make little comments about my kids' handwriting and their
Uh-huh.
cursive, I told her, I said, "You know what? But your cursive is beautiful. Can they come over once a week and you teach them cursive?"
Oh, wow.
And that did it. That did it, because she was able to spend time with them.
Yeah.
She was able to start to see the fruits on her own. And so invite grandparents, invite mentors, and people in your children's lives that can speak truth into them,
Yeah.
especially when they get to middle school and high school, and coaches. And my son's coach, he would go to hitting. He got more life lessons during those those lessons than he did hitting lessons. And so
Yeah.
it truly is important to invite people along on the journey, so
Yeah.
you're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah. And so important for our kids as well. And I know this is hard sometimes for those moms who are real introverts, because they're comfortable at home, and they're comfortable being home with just their kids in their quiet home, or maybe not so quiet home, but in the comfort of, their own walls. But our kids need to invite others into their world as well. They need that interaction with kids. We don't want our kids to become these weird, unsocialized homeschoolers. And that still does happen today. I mean, it's not the norm, but it does still happen. And oftentimes I think it's because moms, whether it's that they want to protect their kids from something, or, maybe they just don't think about it because it doesn't come naturally to them to put themselves out there. But our kids need to invite others along. Be the person who opens up your home to your friend, your kids' friends, to your friends as well, but to your kids' friends, or to your co-ops, or to whoever, and make it a place that is inviting. And invite people in. It's hard for some to do. It's easy for some to do. But it's necessary. And you talked earlier about relationship with our kids and how that really plays into our homeschooling. But we really do need relationships with one another, because we sharpen each other. We build each other up. And it's an important part of the homeschool journey. So I love that one. I love it. Okay. Include others. Let's go to M, SIM. So we've got start with the end in mind, include others.
And then M, I love Mark Twain. I'm from the South. I'm from New Orleans. And so his quote, "Never let schooling get in the way of your education," was actually
Love
our
it.
homeschooling motto.
Oh, love
And
it.
so I had that printed up on our wall. I had it in my lesson plan book. I say that loosely. Okay?
Yeah.
But it was a constant reminder that there's so much more to education than the formal school time.
Yeah.
And me coming from a classroom background, I really had to remind myself that the formal lessons, the table time, the sitting down and actually doing whatever, that was this much. It was just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
That the rest of our lifestyle was actually their education. So when they were cooking with me, and the gardening with my husband, or going out with friends, or whatever, my kids were big into musical theater. All of that is part of their education.
Yeah.
And so it's real important we keep reminding ourselves that you can sit there and do 8 hours of school all day if you want, but really after 2 hours, depending on their age, nothing you're saying it's like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 it's coming out. So really, yes, do your basics, do some of your academics, but the true education is outside the classroom. It's outside the home, or it's outside the box. The curriculum box.
Yep. Love it. All right, you guys, are you hearing this? This is coming from a veteran homeschool mom whose kids are in college and who used to teach in the classroom. So she knows what she's talking about. We've got to listen to this. Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.